Legends are constantly being created, and just as constantly they fade away into the depths of time. Like, how many people know the story of Peter Rugg, for example? He was supposedly an angry man that took his carriage to Boston in a storm sometime in the early 1730s, and he never arrived, but supposedly haunted the roads in New England for decades, and some say he still does. Actually, he was just a literary creation of an early 19th century author, but the legend lived on for many, many years. Do you have any legends you'd like to share with us? Give us a call because the show is starting right now. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host, Kelley Laughlin. This is a live call-in show that happens every single Friday at 7 p.m. Central, where we talk to people about what they believe and why they believe it. And we'd like to talk to you. So if you'd like to give us a call, you can at 1-512-991-9242. Or you can call us through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted is a product of the atheist community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And we are tri-streaming tonight. We've been doing it for a few weeks now, so a big shout out to all of our viewers on TikTok and YouTube Mobile. If you're watching us on TikTok tonight and you would like to talk to us, all you have to do is request to join, and we will bring you up on the stage. So feel free to do that. But you must be over 18 years of age before doing so. Oh, excuse me. Now, every week we have a special guest, and my special guest this week is Robbb. How you doing, Robbb? It's really good to have you here this week.
Hi, thank you. The very fun, at least for me, story of my name is that I used to be on some other shows on the ACA, so I've had to truncate my name. It used to gain a new B every single time I was on, but the fools gave me an email address, so rather than getting it updated, I've solidified into Robbb, which I shall be. Thank you. I appreciate you calling me correctly.
Cool. I'll remember that from now on. So. Well, I miss you from the old show that hopefully will be up in production again at some time. We do. I think they need a producer for that. Did you ever think about doing something like that?
I have thought about doing stuff like that. The trouble is that I'm honored to be on tonight, and it is going to be a rare case because my timing, my schedule and my timing is absolutely insane, which is why I'm very happy to now be able to actually access the schedule. And I can tell you when I am available because I am a frequently unavailable person. So
gotcha.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to be here while I can be.
Well, I'm glad that you're here with me tonight. I have a feeling I'm going to really enjoy the show. Now, before we start, though, we want to do the results of last week's "We Want the Truth" or the WWTT segment. So, if we can bring our backup host Stephen Harder up here, and he can walk us through there he is. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing tonight?
And you can walk us through the answers from last week's "We Want the Truth."
Yeah, we do want the truth. That's right. And last week we were asking for the truth regarding a fill-in-the-blank statement. Fill in the blank. Blessed are the blank, for they blank. And we got a number of answers. We pared it down to our favorite three. Number 3 came from Chuck Gatos, 5387, a repeat offender, which we love. Chuck says, "Blessed are the meek, for they'll likely end up with nothing but the blessing."
So true. Yeah, it's so true, though.
That's a really good line. Oh my God.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta be a little bit of aggressive to get what you want. Number 2 comes from P. Schneider, 708. P. Schneider says, "Blessed are the atheists, for they won't even notice." Which I think we're all guilty of overlooking our blessings and not counting our blessings and are being grateful enough, right? I think that goes for the human territory. And our number 1 response comes from Zach Reeds. Zach says, "Blessed are the unicorns, for they are horny.
Oh, cute. Sure.
And yes, I can take that up myself. So that was our those were some of the best responses that we had from last week. Absolutely.
And what is our prompt for next week?
For next week, our prompt is this: if you could come back as a ghost, who would you want to haunt?
What do you think, Rob?
Oh, okay. My answer will be lame, as I said, but it's very much for me. I would want to haunt the executives at Ubisoft because they canceled the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake, which is one of the few games that made me cry as a child. I tried to replay it several times, and it is a deeply meaningful story and my development. And apparently they were late in stages of it, and they canceled it and several other games. So I am personally devastated.
Which
So
platform
I'm
was
very
that on?
upset. Say again?
Which platform was that on?
PlayStation and Xbox. I don't know if they did a GameCube version or PS2 and Xbox. It's really good. How about you, Kelly? If you
I
could
was
haunt
thinking,
someone.
I want to get back at somebody who's caused us so many problems over the years, and I think maybe somebody like Kent Hovind.
Okay, yeah.
And what
Much
would
more
be really
relevant
fun?
answer.
What would be really fun if I actually went back and just with my voice and convinced them that I was God talking.
Oh,
Ah!
so
That would
mean
be
in a good
Yeah.
way. That would be wonderful. I would love
I
that.
wonder how his rhetoric would change, or if it would. Right? Like, what would be the meaningful difference
He
between
told
then
me
and
to
now?
burn down the Ark encounter. I don't know. It's immoral for me not to do it. Divine command theory. Brr.
God told me to.
I know for myself,
Yeah.
I think I would want to haunt a loved one in like just a really nice way, just mess around with them and just like fuck with them in just like really gentle, loving kind of ways. That would be my thing.
I'm actually really glad that you said that because I think people have the association of haunting as like a purely negative thing, as opposed to simply being a ghost that lingers about.
Yeah. Like I've got friends, they lost a son who was just like in his 20s, right? And it impacted them deeply. And they are just mindful. They are aware of yep, that's our boy. He's looking down at us because look at this thing that just happened. That's just, and I'm pretty sure there's a part of them that knows that it's just a mental construct on their part. But they know what it invokes in them, what it brings about in them, and they like it. And so they hold on to that and they cherish it. Even if it's really just their way of thinking of him by phrasing it as like he's looking down on us, it just gives them, that extra bit of meaningfulness. And that's cool. That's great.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Did you ever see Coco? There's a whole thing in it, and many probably not religions, but just belief systems where you die twice. The first time you die, and then when you are last remembered. And Coco, when nobody remembers you, you finally fade. So a really excellent way to never actually go away is to haunt someone. So it's just like, hey man, I'm just gonna be a thorn in your side. I'll always be around.
Coco, that is a wonderful movie. Kojo, is that the Stephen King?
Cujo.
Cujo.
I thought Cujo.
It's yeah. No. It's essentially the same story, but in one case, the afterlife is a car.
Oh, now I need to look up Cujo. I thought Cujo was like a demon dog.
Yeah.
I mean, he's described as one. I would definitely call him a demon. That dog ain't right. Rabies does some terrible things.
Okay. I'm getting that and Pet Cemetery and Coco mixed up. Okay, perfect. And also Book of the Dead. Book of
Again,
Life,
also
Book of
basically
Life.
the same movie.
There you go. Just sharing my ignorance. That's all.
It's good. So thank you for the question of the week, and that, I mean, even I'm hanging out in chat trying to see people, so you don't have to wait. You can answer now. Who who would you haunt?
Yeah. Well, you can put it in the chat, but we also want you to put it in the comments below. And I don't think you'd do those comments until after the show. So, but because we will take the answers from the comments below, not from the live chat. I see we already actually have a caller coming in, but they're being screened right now. Alan, Stephen, I'm sorry about that. It was great to have you up here. I'm going to bring you back at the end of the show. We'll get you your thoughts on what we say and do here tonight, and we'll
I'll
see
be
you
right
then.
here.
So thanks for that.
Thank you. And to the void he goes.
And then back to the void. My cage is empty right now. They let me out, so we can go back and use my cage. I know you've got a background in philosophy. Is that correct, Rob?
Somewhat so, yeah.
You
I took a lot of classes on it when I was in college, mostly logic, philosophy of religion, nothing very special, nothing very specific. And depending on when I graduated, it would or would not have been a minor. So I have a background in philosophy, but I don't want to sound like I'm an expert.
I know before the show we were talking that, and you said one of your favorite arguments that is used for God was the ontological argument because you thought it was so ridiculous.
Nutso bonkers is, I believe, what I said. Yes, I think the ontological argument for the existence of God is nutso bonkers. So I can describe it pretty quickly. In my experience, there are three main arguments for the existence of God: the cosmological, the ontological, and the teleological, and they all kind of go in and out of favor. Every couple hundred years is what people tend to cycle through them. And what we're currently in the age of science is the teleological, which people know as like fine-tuning, stuff like that, where it's just, oh my God, look, the world is too perfect for us. Clearly, it must have been designed. That's not the one that I think. That's not my favorite. My favorite is the ontological, because it tries very hard to define God into existence using word trickery. And I just think that's really fun. It goes like this. It is the case that a thing that exists is better than a thing that does not exist. And God is the most perfect thing. Therefore, a God that exists in the mind, which is to say, does not exist in reality, is not as good as the God that does exist within reality and also in the mind. And because God is perfect, therefore, to be the most perfect thing, he must exist outside of the mind as well. And I just think I think that's just like somebody who learned a bunch of words and learned how to write. He's like, I'm literate now. And just wrote down a bunch of stuff. That guy was Thomas Aquinas, by the way. Just saying.
I thought that was St. Anselm that came up with that one. But
oh, I think you're right.
I was going to ask you if you knew when St. Anselm lived.
I don't.
I don't either.
It's
right
really
off the
early.
bat. And I was just thinking he probably, it wasn't that they were dumber than us back then. They just didn't have as many facts to work with, right?
Yeah.
So
he was the Archbishop of Canterbury, 1093 to 1109, which is earlier than I was going to say. I was going to say 1200s because that's about what it felt like, but slightly earlier.
Fair enough.
But that's my favorite. Thanks for asking.
Cool. If go ahead, you were going to say.
Well, I wanted to know because it is rare for someone to be, in my experience, to be screened and ready to jump in so quickly. So I'm just wondering where we are on that.
You're ready to go with the caller.
It's a call-in show. They called.
All right, let's bring them up then. Let's just jump right into it. We got Salvatore Collada. Who wants to discuss prayer? Prayer is a loot box that traps you into theism. Hello.
Hey, good evening, guys.
I'm sorry, when I flipped you up here, things changed on me, but you're listed as Druid. And
yes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, y'all can just call me Druid. My pronouns are he, him.
Okay.
Hello and welcome, Druid.
So,
thank you.
So what do you got for us?
What do you believe and why?
All right, so I am an atheist. This is and this is kind of, I don't expect this to be a proof or a convincing thing. This is just the moment that kind of slammed the door on theism for me. And I've never heard anyone talk about it in this way. So basically, prayer is a loot box, right? We're familiar with that concept of loot boxes that game developers use to keep us playing games. Like, oh, you can get this loot box with this particular reward if you do this thing. So as long as you keep playing the game, which is the behavior you want, you have a chance to get this really cool thing. So back when I was in college many years ago, we studied like Skinner behavior modification. And the idea is if you teach a rat to press a button, and every time he presses a button, he gets a piece of food or he gets a treat, as soon as you stop giving him the treat, he stops the behavior, the pressing the button. So they did a whole kind of bunch of different experiments, and they found out that the way that you can keep the behavior going the longest, you want to keep that rat touching that button. It's called, if I remember correctly, it's called a random reward ratio schedule, which is he may press it 3 times, he'll get a treat. He may press it 10 times, he'll get a treat. He may press it once, he gets a treat. So he never knows when that reward is coming. And this is kind of the same mechanism that gambling hooks, that gambling kind of hits, that same kind of dopamine hit or whatever. And we see this in loot boxes. We see it in like collectible card games like Magic. Guilty as charged, because you're going to buy the pack, and you may not get the really cool card on this pack, but you might get it on the next one. So and eventually you do get a really cool card. So it keeps you in that behavior of buying packs. Casinos, you put anyway.
So, yeah.
Yes,
go ahead. So,
Lottery tickets.
So this realization helped deconvert you, I think, is what you were saying?
Yes.
Something similar?
So I applied this to prayer. I just woke up one morning and it was like, boom, applied this to prayer. If God exists, then they say, oh, he answers every prayer, some yes, some no. Then he is setting up a random reward ratio schedule with the express idea to manipulate us into continuing the behavior of religion. And that's when I decided I would not serve something that manipulative. And then the rest of it just fell away. There would have been a lot of steps up to that, but that was like the moment where like, I'm out. I'm out of the system.
I'm out, man. They can't bring me back in.
I'm out, dude. Nope.
So I have a couple thoughts on that, which is, and I want to say this as politely as possible. I don't find that very compelling for very specific reasons, but only because, presumably within the belief structure, God wouldn't be assigning yes/no traits randomly, and so there would be thought in that. The reason why I think that your argument would actually be more compelling, as opposed to religiosity as a whole, as opposed to a specific God, is the power structures of religion as social organizations. So as they can like try to say, oh, some miracles are conducted, some prayers are answered, come to church and make sure you tithe, right? Because now I'm disconnecting the idea of an actual godly entity as to the actual social construct of how religion is actually executed.
That is a very interesting point. And let's say this is not intended to be an argument against God. It was just like one, but no, I like how you apply that to the structures of religion, because that is a well-made point.
Because to your point, right, where you say, if God's just going to decide yes or no, and I can't determine when it's going to be, this is a random reward structure, and I'm being classically conditioned, like Pavlov's dogs. When that happens, when that's happening, it'd be very easy to say something like, well, then you're just not having the right prayer, you're not asking for the right thing. And then on top of that, the reason why I do think that your approach is at least interesting is because you then come to the very natural conclusion many of us come to, which is, okay, even if it is the case that there is a God who is doing this, that's not someone who I would want to worship. Note, if you take that approach, you're still actually acknowledging the possible existence of the God, right?
Oh yeah.
You're just like, no.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that's in the times I've had discussions with theists, I'm like, look, even if you can prove that your God exists, the dude's he's a moral monster. He's about a step below a mob boss. So, and that realization about the random reward, that's kind of what got me to that point, and that's what kicked me out of the system. Substitutionary atonement, that grossness got me really, really close, and yeah.
Well, it ends up being like grains of sand, right? Because it's another thing, and then another thing doesn't make sense, and then another thing doesn't make sense, and then eventually something. It's not that one thing is necessarily very convincing. It's just there's now an aggregate of what is happening.
Yes. And that's, I mean, it was, my deconstruction took 7 years, and I've deconstructed now almost 20, and I'm still kind of finding things that I have to pull apart. But yeah, there's that moment where it just snaps, the bridge breaks, the whatever, and I encourage people to keep going, because eventually you'll hit that point, and follow the questions, follow your authenticity, and you'll get there.
Yeah, don't stop asking questions. Go ahead, Kelley.
I was just going to say, Druid, was something I like to ask a lot of people who have gone through the deconstruction process is, what was it that actually the thing that got you started on your path?
If this was the end, what was the beginning?
Yeah, so the beginning was I was a really terrible husband, and started going to therapy and kind of uncovering a lot of the damage that religion had done, the process I've compared it to is, you wear the mask so well you become the thing, and then my whole therapy and deconversion was prying off that mask, painfully, step by step. And what started was like, holy shit, I'm a really terrible person in this relationship, and I don't want to be that.
That is, one, not an easy thing to admit, and two, a harder thing to acknowledge publicly. So, I have no reason to not believe you. So, just good job, well done. That can not be easy. So good shit.
No, it was
Yeah.
No, look, therapy, go to therapy. Everybody needs therapy. It has made me a better person.
Well, congratulations. Therapy didn't make you the better person. You use therapy as a tool to make yourself a better person. Always don't ever sell yourself short. That change wouldn't have happened if it didn't come from within yourself. So that's congratulations, because you came a long way. And like Robb said, it's not easy to admit the things that you admitted. So
I want to. I work with kids, and I don't say my joke specifically like this, but I want to tell you my favorite joke, which will not land as easily with you because you've already done it, but it's really funny, where I get to say, guess what, Druid?
What?
You messed up. You've proven you can do it. Now we know you can. Now I expect it from you.
My girlfriend is sitting right here, and she is laughing.
Good. That is a very cool call to take as my literal first time here on this show. So I could not have asked for a better first call.
That was awesome.
Man, look, I teed up the success for you, man. All you got to do is get it on the fairway.
Oh, hell yeah. Now you get to watch this train wreck just go for the rest of the time.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, I thought y'all might have fun playing with that concept.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy to talk with y'all tonight.
I'm glad you called in. It was really inspiring. I honestly, I found you to be really inspiring, and I hope that other people who are listening can hear your story and make some of the changes that they need to make in their lives too to make themselves better people. So
Yeah.
thank you. I really, really do appreciate you calling in. I was just thinking too. You were talking about the randomizer thing, and I had this idea that if God truly was omniscient, he would have known exactly what random pattern to give to you to keep you hooked, right?
Ooh.
So it kind of showed me that,
dude.
yeah, maybe he doesn't, he's not omniscient because he didn't keep you hooked. So
No. This means that he is omniscient and very specifically demonized Druid, thereby proving he's even more of an asshole than Druid had originally thought.
Wait, y'all. Okay. Y'all know what a mind fuck is? Like, so I grew up during the Satanic Panic, right? And played D&D started back in the mid '80s, and then my parents went on to the Satanic Panic thing, and I'm an atheo-pagan now, right? And so there's times I hadn't had to do this in a while, but I've had to unthink. Like, I have this thought. It's like, oh, the only reason you're an atheist right now is because demons got into you while you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they have led you astray.
Yep.
And having to think myself through that I haven't had that thought in a long time, but it was a reoccurring thing where I'd be like, no, I am acting with less harm in the world. I'm a better person. And so look, the indoctrination runs deep, y'all.
do you still play?
Anyway,
D&D?
that was a whole other phone call right there. I shouldn't have done that.
No, that's cool. No, I've been enjoying your call. Do you still play D&D by any chance?
Dude, I'm DMing on Sunday for my kid and a bunch of friends, and my girlfriend is playing D&D for the first time on Sunday. We're having
very
sessions.
cool.
There's nothing like playing D&D with your kids, man. It's a great experience.
This guy.
Yep.
Comes in talking about session 0 after therapy. Like, this guy knows what he's doing now. This is cool. I was going to mention. Well, a thing that happened to me is similar because I did not grow up in the Satanic Panic, but when I was much younger, a lot of my stuff is video games. I was playing Legend of Dragoon for the PlayStation 1, and my neighbor really loved it. We were in middle school at the time, and my neighbor had just gotten a PlayStation, so he got his parents to get him the Legend of Dragoon, and then he had a great time, and they were in ways that I did not understand, because most people I talk to have deconverted. I was never religious. So I did not understand that his parents got him the game. No, it's worse. His parents allowed him to use his money to get the game. Then, when saw what was in the game, made him snap the discs to the game that he bought. And then he was super traumatized and super upset about it because there was magic in the game, right? So, I definitely didn't have the Satanic Panic, but I feel like I've absolutely dealt with parts of that.
What is the difference between miracles and magic?
I don't know.
I've asked that genuinely. They tell me that miracles are magic, but the only good magic is from God. So it is.
That's what. So basically, that's all the explanations boil down to: is one is God magic and the other is not. So, yeah.
Which for your girlfriend, depending on what she plays, she'll have access to divine magic, in which case she'll have to represent her god good, right? Nicely. There you go.
Yeah, well, she's playing a druid, which, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
And, so for decades, I've hated gnomes and I've hated bards. Just, it's a thing. It's a me thing. It's not a you thing. I can hear the internet screaming at me now. So for this game, even though I'm DMing, I'm creating a character that I'm gonna try to slip in and things like that, and I'm making a gnome bard to try to stretch myself.
Just there you
Sure.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Open up new worlds, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the worst character to DM for is a druid. You're gonna hate me for saying that, but I hate DMing a druid.
because they have so many options, right?
They have a lot, but they also have to have a pretty strict code they have to live by as well too. So
With the druids,
yeah, I mean they still got
depends on.
they still got to work within the confines of their religion, right?
Oh yeah,
D&D
yeah.
D&D and other role playing is actually a really excellent way to. Do you know what a social story is? Have you ever heard
I
of social story?
do not. No, I do.
So
I
it's-
have not.
So a social story is a tool used within behavior modification and mostly child development, where like you have a kid who like steals or bites or whatever. So then rather than telling them, no, you can't do that, what you do is you like get a book and like read a story about a kid who exhibits that behavior, and then the effects of what that behavior has on them. Because for a child to think about themselves as a thinking agent is basically not possible because our brains aren't fully developed until 25 and their brains are pudding, right? So it's a lot easier to understand the effects of behavior when it happens to someone else. That's what a social story is used for. I am not an advocate for using D&D for therapy, and it doesn't sound like you're doing that, but I do just want to point out that D&D has been fun for me because, as I said, I've never been religious, and yet I tend to play paladins and other things because I like to engage in the structure of how religiosity works, and possibly that with gods that do in fact exist, and how people think about these things as real, actual, material things. So have fun with that as you're playing with where your magic comes from, because turns out you live in a society, therefore your magic is going to be representative of things that are around you. Christianity. Like, it's just going to be there.
I got a laugh out of the live chat. I had to say something about it. Crispin Slit said, Kelley don't like strict codes. And I was like, yeah, I'm an old hippie. What do you expect? You know?
Well, normally it's the paladins that people think of as really strict.
They're hard. They're to me, they're just as hard. Yeah, those are like the two hardest classes to me, paladins and druids. Yeah.
Well, and so did you play like first edition, second edition paladins?
I grew up playing second edition. I still run a second edition game. People think I'm nuts, but
okay, yeah. So that makes sense. Oh, hey guys, you want to? I don't want to talk over anybody. Okay, no, because that makes sense. Especially in those old editions, paladins were really, they had that code to follow. Sorry, my dog keeps barking at the other dog. So yeah, and what it is I think people get locked in with the paladins and being lawful good, and then role playing lawful good in a really poor way. The lawful good alignment doesn't have to be in your face like pedantic, I told you so. They can also just sit back and let the rogue reap the consequences of their actions, and then role play it that way rather than being the whole party buzzkill. I know there's that dynamic that exists, and that essentially used to exist.
Yeah, paladins are the ones that tend to have the most, like, literally paladins are one of the most potentially powerful social stories within D&D, if you at least play them right? Because the point is they adhere to some form of code. So, like,
dude, I'm sorry, I've completely lost that train of the conversation. Thank you for bringing it back.
No, it's good because it's I didn't want to get too much into D&D specifically, which I'm trying to
we
keep
probably
on,
shouldn't really
on like some religiosity stuff. But I will share my one anecdote and then be good with it. But I was playing a different version of D&D called Dungeon World, not actually D&D. Point being, My paladin had a strict oath. Somebody stole something, and my paladin was all about law. It doesn't matter where it is; it's just the law. And so somebody stole something, but they were in a different town. So I'm like, you have to give that back. And they're like, I'm not going to do that. Then I am going to cut off your finger. And he's like, well, you can't do that either. And I'm like, whoa, okay, here's the deal. We have to follow the law. And if you don't follow my law, then we follow the law of nature, in which case I will kill you. So we're going to keep it civil. Okay. We're going to follow the law. Which law am I following? And I thought that was cute.
No, that's actually a pretty good moment on the table, man. Yeah. That was yeah. I like that. As far as games as therapy, going back to that thread, I'm not sure where I stand with D&D as therapy. I have heard of it. I hadn't really looked into it. I do like D&D. So here's what I did on one of my games. And my kid and their friend were on the table. Both of them are at college, and part of the campaign, they were actually employees at a college, and one of the characters was a maintenance guy, and so I emphasized he was like a maintenance guy. He also had magic powers. It's a role playing game. So, but what I did was I emphasized when he put his maintenance uniform on, he disappeared and nobody noticed him, and use that as commentary of like, look at what you don't see. Look at these people that just kind of disappear into the background. There's a person sweeping up after you. There's this guy repairing a light. You got some dude checking a water line. We don't see those people, but recognize that they're there and see what that kind of thing. I think D&D is really good for.
Yeah. That's very cool, actually, especially given your background, what you said, and where you're coming from. The appreciation, I want to use that word very specifically, the appreciation of people and where they are and what they're doing is not a very common trait in general. Most people kind of treat themselves as the main character, right? And that's not to be mean. They're just, I'm doing my own shit. So to very explicitly pay attention to not yourself means that you are in danger of being a very good GM if you keep following that.
My players hope so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a great call, Druid. Like I said, it's been really inspiring, and I've had fun talking about D&D too. So.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I've listened to y'all before. I usually catch y'all on the podcast or on at work on YouTube, but love what y'all are doing. Definitely.
Yeah, I listen to the AXP 24/7 a lot when I'm working. So totally.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for being a part, and then don't stop being a part.
Yeah, thanks for being you.
All right.
Keep being you because you're awesome.
Y'all too. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
That was just an amazing call. I love that.
All right, that's it. I retire.
All right, let's go home.
That's the best first call anyone could have. That's good vibes all around. He's actually like, so you were asking before the show, what is my background in?
Yeah.
My background is actually in theater. And I have a comprehensive minor in performance studies and interpretive arts. And so for a person, so what that basically means is I read real good. And for a person who presumably has not gone through a lot of training and education to pay attention to that sort of thing, to work their way into it, is both fascinating and commendable. Like it's literally going to have a greater appreciation for literally the entire world because you're looking beyond yourself and you're thinking about how things connect to each other. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was a great call. I have to do a few announcements real quick if I can throw those out of the way. let's do that real quick. Join our weekly watch parties at the Free Thought Library on Sundays for live viewings of Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience every Sunday. It's a lot of fun. I've been there myself during the Sunday for the shows, and it really is. There's a lot of great people there. You can go there and see the friends that you haven't met yet. Doors open at 11. It's a great place for building community. I totally recommend going and doing it if you live in the Austin area. And another way to support us here is with super chats. Get those super chats in. We will do super facts. I should have said it. I was even told to say it right away. We're going to do super facts again tonight. So if you send in a super chat, I will jump on it and give you some really cool super fact. Robb's going to help me out too. So get them in. We'll read them as fast as we can. And if you're in the Austin area, you can follow us on Meetup. Just join meetup.com. Stop for a minute. Slow down, Kelley. My brain hasn't been working as well as it usually is. Follow us on Meetup to keep up with community events. You can see what's going on at tiny.cc/ACA Meetup. And we do things like Philosophy Under the Stars. There's game nights and all kinds of cool stuff. Again, back at the Free Thought Library, where they're actually building have built a great community in Austin. And last but not least, I want to thank the crew. So if we can bring the crew cam up, these are the people that make this show what it is. They're the actual magicians. They're the people who make Robb and I look good. So they are the they are the magicians behind the screens there. And without them, I wouldn't even be able to do this. But if you want to be one of those wonderful, beautiful people on the crew, you can. You can actually do it yourself by emailing volunteer@atheist-community.org to get involved. And we have all kinds of positions open. You can learn to be a tech crew. You can learn to do YouTube moderating, learn to be a call screener. You can even become a host at some point in the future. So give us a call or drop us a line, drop us an email. Again, volunteer@atheist-community.org to get involved.
I wanted to give actual shout out because one of the reasons why I am here is because of the Philosophy Under the Stars, which started a while ago, and because I am not very near the Free Thought Library, I don't make it to it as much as I would like, but it is a good time. And I'm glad to hear that it is continuing because it was a good time.
Cool. I haven't been to one of those, but I have been at watch parties before. I've had a lot of fun. And a lot of times, if you show up at the watch parties, a lot of the hosts have been. I met Sophia. This is one of the Sundays that I was there. So,
yeah, you meet a bunch of cool people.
One of the other things that we like to do every week is we like to talk about the patron of the week. So, let me find my spot here. I'm totally lost. Our patron of the week this week is Don Nelson. Thank you, Don, and thank you to everyone who contributes to the show. Every week, we like to shout out to one person that does donate to us through Patreon. You can do that yourself at tiny.cc/PatreonTW and support the show that way. We really appreciate it, and we may bring you up as our patron of the week next week. So get on that. And thank you, Don. Appreciate that immensely. So we have call lines open. Give us a call. If you're watching us on TikTok, raise your hand. Come on up. Give us a talk, man. We'd love to hear what you're thinking about.
It is the case that the most fundamental difference between this and the atheist experience is that this is about pretty much any belief that you have. Is that right?
Yeah.
I say that as if I don't know, so I can prompt people to call.
Yes. You can call us about conspiracies, UFOs, ghosts, psychic abilities, whatever you'd like.
If you convince me that I should, in fact, wear tinfoil, it's over there. I can't. But you got to call. So anyway, can I tell you a short story, very short, of a silly belief someone told me they had as a child, and I thought it was so endearing and innocent and lovely, where I was a summer camp counselor. I taught theater. I say this for Stephen in the background because he's didn't know that I was also doing theater, so he's been typing at me. But so I was doing theater, at a summer camp, and this guy came up, and he was a fellow counselor, cool guy, and he said, "Hey, Robb, did you know?" I don't know why he told me this, but I love that he did. Did you know that when I was a kid, I thought that mountains were just pebbles that grew really big? So, whoa, I'll tell you the end of the story in a moment. No. Story has to go on pause because we have a super chat. What's our super fact?
We got a super fat chat.
We got a super chat.
We got a super chat. I'm waiting for it to come up on the screen, but
The intent is
there's
palpable.
it's just 2 pounds and a crown. Thank you, Crispin Slit. Appreciate that. And our big fact is, animals can experience time differently than humans. To smaller animals, the world around them moves much more slowly compared to us. Salamanders and lizards, for example, experience time more slowly than cats and dogs. And that's because the perception of time depends on how quickly the brain can actually process incoming information. So how about that?
I think the uncharitable reading of that is if you're stupid, you're slow, right?
I was trying to be nice.
So my buddy told me that he believed that mountains were just pebbles that grew really big. So when he was a kid, he went into his driveway, grabbed a bunch of small rocks, and he buried them in his backyard, and then he would water them for a few weeks. Yeah, and he watered them, and I was just like, "That's
awesome,
precious."
That is so awesome.
And you know what I like about that story, genuinely so, is because it makes it complete sense to a 6-year-old. Right? Like, I can totally see how someone could arrive at that. But then he learned clearly that is not the case, and we learn new information, and we become convinced of other things. But just like, we used to think that trees ate the dirt. Of course we did. That makes sense if you don't know anything else. So if you have something that you think makes sense, you should call us.
We used to think that thunderstorms were caused by demons in the air. That was actually a true medieval idea. And the way to get rid of the demons was to have the church bell ringer rush to the church and start ringing the church bell, which resulted in the electrocution death of a lot of church bell ringers in medieval times. Totally true. You can look this up. This is totally true.
Well, just funny side fact. So gargoyles were created to keep demons away because they're scary, right? Gargoyles are not themselves demons. They're to ward off demons. And my realtor, when we bought her house, became very angry at me when I said that I wanted to get a gargoyle for the house. And she's like, "It'll make it impossible to resell. Robb, you can't do that."
I rented a storefront decades ago in DeKalb, Illinois, and it had 2 big gargoyles on the top of the building. I woke up one morning and somebody had shot an arrow into one of them.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it was totally awesome. I actually thought it was. And the problem with an arrow is it points backwards to where it came from, right?
Yeah.
And there was a balcony on an apartment building right across the street. Unfortunately, the owner of the building showed up a couple of weeks later, saw the arrow, called the police, and got the kids arrested. Some college kids, unfortunately. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, I wasn't going to climb. He went up there and took it out. I was going to leave it there forever myself.
Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and I dressed up as a gargoyle for one of them, and I sat on my friend's roof and I threw candy at passersby. So I thought that was fun. And the reason why I bring that up is actually to one, to tell the story, but also to I remember seeing a video of just presumably some Christian lady holding a child, and she goes, "Because I'm Christian, we don't celebrate Halloween. We just like to dress up and pass out candy." And I'm like, "That's Halloween." That's it. You got it in one.
Hey, Rob, while we're waiting for some calls in, why don't we bring Stephen up and have him, force him to be part of our show? There he is.
Yeah, if we must.
Hi, Stephen.
Hey there. Hiya. I'm back.
Welcome back.
I'm White.
How
Thank
been?
you. I've been doing great. Just enjoying the conversation about Disney's gargoyles. Oh, wait. That's one gargoyle we weren't talking about.
I also thought of Goliath as we were talking about that.
We are just like cut from the same cloth, Rob, you and I. There we go.
Yeah, maybe so.
Except without my glasses on, for the first few minutes, whenever I looked at your shirt, I just saw like this stylized, like black Celtic cross, like on the shoulder of your shirt. I was just like, just because of the way the microphone stand was like holding it, I was just like, oh,
That makes sense. Yeah, not
interesting. What am I not seeing here? Now I know.
I love dogs. I love whistles.
Nice. You guys ever spend much time reading the Bible?
I have not read it in a long time, but I have read the entire Bible. I've read the New Testament twice and the Gospels 4 times.
That was my like real slick segue.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
Yeah.
It was opaque as hell. Have you read a lot of the Bible?
It was kind of my thing for quite a while there. Like I was definitely identifying with our caller there. And like again, props to him for all the work that he's been doing. Good on him. But yeah, no, I've been digging back into the book of Genesis. I have a show coming up in this summer, and I just want to talk about the book of Genesis and what does it mean if you're reading the book of Genesis literally, and how does that impact our society and maybe the world writ large when there are folks who like believe that no, the way this is written, that is how reality is, and there's just like I knew that there was but it's just good to be reminded of like specifically, I've been thinking about Judah recently. Judah specifically, he had some sons, and Tamar was his oldest son. I don't know. One of his sons' wife was Tamar, and then that son died before he could, put Tamar to use and impregnate her, and so obviously the rule of the day was, okay, if your husband dies before you can have kids, then you just get married to his brother so that his brother can do the thing, and that was Onan. And for those of us who were like deep in the purity culture, know that the only reason why making the Cyclops cry is forbidden in Christian circles, in part, is because Onan would, go into his brother's wife, Tamar, but he would spill his seed on the ground, which is just a crazy euphemism in general. And what are they doing it? Why are they doing it on the ground? Anyways, this pisses off God, so God kills Onan for not doing his responsibility with his brother's wife. And so now Judah's in this awkward place of like, you know what? I'm supposed to like give her to the next son, but he's only 12 and she's a little bit of a black widow. She's already killed like 2 of my sons. I don't know if I want to give her to like my 12-year-old. And like 12-year-old's like, no, I'm ready. Come on. Put me in, coach. I'm ready for this. But Judah's like, no, I'm just going to keep her in my house and she can just be like a daughter or something like that. And that doesn't make her happy because she wants to have a family, I guess, because she's whatever. That's her role in the world. So one day she gets out of bed and she's like, oh, where's Daddy Judah at? And they're like, oh, he went out to do like work with the sheeps or whatever. And she's like, aha, here's my opportunity. So then she like gets dressed up, goes into whatever town, puts a veil on her face, and then Judah's like walking through this town, and she's just like, "Hey, big boy, what are you doing? You want some?" I don't know if this was like the red light district or what, but and like all men who are away from home on business, he's like, yes, here's my opportunity for casual anonymous sex. So, he spends time with this mysterious woman that he doesn't recognize. And then afterwards, he's like, oh, shoot, I forgot my wallet in the car and I don't have Venmo, I guess. So he's like, here, I'll give you my ring just to say that I'll be right back. So he gives her his ring and he leaves to get some money and she like yeets out of there, goes back home. He comes back, he's like, oh, I guess she didn't want to get paid. Whatever, prostitute. So then he goes back home. Yeah, I know, right? I just lost a ring. So then 3 months later, neighbors come knocking on Judah's door and it's like, Judah, Tamar's done something awful. She's prostituted out herself because look at her. She's pregnant. She is a prostitute. So come on, let's go kill her. And she's like, oh, Daddy, it's true. It's true. And here's the ring of the guy who knocked me up. And he was like, oh, shit. I guess I knocked up my daughter. This is my punishment for not giving her to the 12-year-old, I guess. And it's just the rampant hypocrisy that she should be stoned because she prostituted herself, but never would we ever consider stoning a man for using a prostitute. That's what happens.
So what's the moral of that story?
That's our super chat. That's our poll question for next week. What is the moral of this story? Don't jack off, boys. That's the only moral I ever took from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I got this right. Hold
That and make sure you take the veil off.
Well, yeah, like now that I think about it, because Judah's so Judah's grandfather would Judah's dad would have been Jacob, and Jacob was one who's like, I will marry Rachel, and then Laban's all like, yeah, you can marry my daughter, sure, here she is, just don't look at her too closely in the dark tonight. And then when he wakes up in the morning, he's like, what? Wait a minute, you gave me the ugly one. Why didn't I know this? Like, I don't know. What's with these guys? Were they, maybe they needed glasses. I don't know.
I'm not actually going to say these are related. It just made me think of it, where it's like, you know, hidden identity, prophecy fulfilled backwards. It made me think of Perseus killing Acrisius with the discus. The ancient Greek tragedy, just like you can't
Kill
mess
your
with fate.
kill your father, marry your mother.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is in fact actually related. I'm just like, oh, this seems like classical storytelling tropes.
Yeah.
Hey. We've heard this one before. It was so refreshing. I'm going to say that. I'm very thankful for all of the positives that I have in my life, including having a very healthy relationship with my co-parent, even though faith is something that we're not going to see eye to eye on. And that means that our kids are caught in the middle, but so I just pick my battles really, really carefully. And the other day we were just like, hey, here, like I got my daughter this book of Greek myths for Christmas. So sometimes on a Sunday morning, we'll just sit and read like, hey, here's a Greek myth. And it was so neat to be able to read the story of Pandora and just like basically like I didn't need to insert my commentary saying, hey, look at all of the parallels between the story of Pandora and the story of Eve. Like it was just so clearly on the surface that yes, like here is a woman and she is like the reason why there is so much bad in the world. Like that was just so clearly there on the surface. I didn't need to spell that out because we could just see, oh yeah, like here's a story we don't believe and the things that are important in it. And then we can also carry that over to stories that people we know, love, and trust do believe. And maybe they are equally sexist.
So are you telling me that reading kids' stories and using them as a construct on how to examine behavior in a society is good?
I don't know, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
Christians
I don't know if that
have been doing
applies to making up stories.
The Christians have been trying to do it for 2,000 years. I mean, must
Yeah.
be working, right?
I want to be in the school classroom where they are forced to read through the whole Bible. Like, okay, grade threes, we're in Genesis chapter 36.
It is really weird talking to people who have deconverted, because as I said, I was never religious. And so like I don't have any of the baggage or trauma that's real and justified that comes with a lot of people. And when I was a kid, I didn't even fathom that these are things that exist. So like I tell the story of the time I got kicked out of Sunday school, and other people are like, you went? And I'm like, once. out.
And only once.
And it was like really simple apologetics, where they're just like, the ancient Egyptians had gods and those were false idols. And I'm like, but they weren't to them. So I'm essentially arguing cultural relativism, which I wouldn't nowadays. But like, I was 12 and this seemed like an obvious counterpoint.
Only if you're on the outside is it obvious.
I think discussing like ancient mythology like that with your children kind of helps them see that there are, the religious ideas are ingrained throughout cultures, and they've all kind of borrowed from each other, and we get the same stories even in like old Sumerian and Babylonian mythologies, right? But my daughter, I named my daughter after a Greek goddess, and when she was old enough for bedtime stories, I told her the story of her goddess, and she just fell in love with that story and wanted more and more and more of it. So that was her bedtimes basically, was Greek myths.
That's cool.
And yeah, so that was kind of fun.
Our daughter's named after a video game character.
My sister is named after a Greek nymph.
Oh, cool.
Technically.
Well then,
Yeah.
technically. But if we go back far enough, we're all from Adam and Eve, right? Let's get 23andMe up here.
I find your genealogy goes suspiciously back to Mount Olympus. Did anyone else have any like childhood things that they believed in? Because I'm curious. Because I mean, other than like Santa Claus, like my Pebble story from earlier, like
That one's cute.
yeah, dude, I thought it was lovely.
I like it's okay. I don't know if I was it. Okay, when I say the word romper room, does that mean anything south of the border?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
I actually had a letter from Romper Room because I sent them a picture that I drew, and they sent it back. They sent me a letter back. Unfortunately, it got destroyed in a flood years ago, but it was one of my prized possessions.
Wow. So that show fucked with me because, at the end, every time she's like, I see this person and that person and that
Yeah.
person. And that just instilled in me this idea that when you're watching TV, like there's a camera inside that TV recording you and it's like sending it to the lens of the camera in the studio.
Yep.
And she can just look at the lens and she can see like all these individual people. And I just thought that's how it worked. And how on soap operas, when they need to change scenes, it was just on a big revolving set, whoosh, and then it just pivots, spins, whoosh. And that's the only way you can do these set changes.
I thought she could see us too, to be honest with you. I totally did.
Abusing our trust. Man, that show must have been old.
It's been around.
I don't know
I
that
am.
one.
So it's had to have been around 61 years ago at least. So
Wow.
62 years ago, 63 years ago.
That's some old stuff.
I am. Thank you. So I can't, I'm trying to think of what else I believe. I had a really sad belief, and I don't want to go into that, and it was one of the things that kind of made me deconstruct too, because I was waiting to be rescued, and I never was. And it kind of made me, I guess I got disappointed with God because of it. And then when my parents got divorced, and it was like my stepfather who actually was making us go to church, and my mother was trying to raise 4 kids as a single mom and just didn't have time for it. And I didn't feel like I was missing anything by not going to church anymore. And I just kind of faded away from it just slowly,
Yeah.
I remember the very first time that I was ever. I actually remember the very first time that I was exposed to the idea of God, and I was in kindergarten. So I got about 5 years in with no one talking to me about it, and I was like, hungry. So I was like, "Hey, let's go steal some chips from the thing at the school." And this little girl who I was friends with goes, "You can't do that," and I'm like, "Why not?" And she goes, "'Cause you'll get in trouble." And I go, "Yeah, we'll be sneaky." And she goes, "No, you'll get in trouble by God." And I went, who's God? And she said, he's the old man that lives in the sky. And I remember, I literally went, why doesn't he fall? And so that's why I like I said, I work with kids, and it's very interesting to see what people believe. And because oftentimes people believe things people believe things for what they believe are good reasons. And then over time, they believe either that they are extremely good reasons or they're not so good. So how do people, what criterion do they use to come to these conclusions? Why do they discard some beliefs and not others? Which is why I want you to call. Theists do in fact get priority on the calls, and theists do in fact call in. Did we do it?
Speaking of which,
Did I summon one?
God, please send us a theist. Ooh, you could
There's
answer
more
my
of
prayer.
them than us. This shouldn't be so hard.
Yeah. You would think we'd be able to get some people, just about anything, too. I mean, call us about UFOs. We get so many people over the years have called us about UFOs and aliens even, you know?
That'd be really cool.
Oh, I would love that call. I love those calls. I really do. I love conspiracy theories, too. I really do.
How do you do? Because like some of the conspiracy theories that I have heard about turned out to be true. So like,
Sure.
how do you make that judgment? Like before it becomes obviously true? Because like MK Ultra was a thing, but that was all, not talked about. So like, it's not a conspiracy once it's found out. I don't know how to engage in this type of.
To me, it still is a conspiracy once it's found out. We just found out about the conspiracy, right? And some of the conspiracies to me are just like totally ridiculous. But when you think about something like MK Ultra, they're feeding the soldiers LSD to research mind control for war for the purposes of war. Which, I mean, that's a totally crazy idea that did turn out to be true. I remember a story about a guy who thought he was recording aliens landing at or spying at a military base. And he went to the military base to report it, and they told him, no, nothing's going on here. And then he met a guy in a bar. This is a true story, too. Met a guy in a bar a few days later who believed it, and they started checking out, and they started publicizing that they were following these aliens. Of course, everybody thought they were crazy. And what was actually happening is they were doing research for drones, for military drones. And the guy he met in the bar was actually a government plant to keep him thinking that he was seeing aliens, so that the fact of the military drone technology didn't actually come out. So, a crazy conspiracy, but it's one that actually happened. So
Yeah.
that's what I think UFOs are. I think they're just advanced military tech, and they're making us think it's UFOs.
I doubt they're even making us think it. They just don't even care. They're happy to let people be wrong, right?
Yeah, right. That's it. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
and they're kind of pushing it for us to be wrong. Why not?
I
it makes
remember
sense.
I was watching a video. I don't remember what it was, but I thought the way that they explained the idea of a conspiracy and secret knowledge was just really cool. Because like, imagine that there is a secret, something that is unknown. You can't know what it is, but the way that they were describing it, especially in like a research aspect, is that you learn things around it. It's metaphorically almost like observing a black hole by light going around it. You start to sense the shape of the information, not by what you do actually see, but by how all of the other information interacts with that secret. And I'm like, that sounds like a really cool but possibly vacuous way to talk about anything that you don't know, but is also inherently true about how knowledge works. So that's neat. Like, I gained nothing useful from it other than that's cool.
One of the ways that I found and it's not 100% foolproof, but a way to uncover a false conspiracy theory is motivation. If they're doing this crazy, insane thing, why are they doing it? And almost 100% of the people who are telling you these crazy stories have no clue why, and that
Yeah.
usually tells me that maybe this is probably not true.
I actually think that's probably good. Like that should be honestly, that should be a razor because that's kind of the one you go to for like moon landing was a hoax, right? It's like, okay, so you're telling me that America and the USSR jointly have decided what to tell the public when they can't agree on anything else? You find this more likely?
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good point.
Yeah, that's been a big decision maker for me when I look at a conspiracy to decide whether it might be real or not. But when you're talking about taking rounded people up and holding them in old Walmart stores, that just doesn't, I don't know if anybody remembers that when that one came about. Probably around 2006, 2007, that one was going around.
I did not hear that one, but I was just going to make like
they
a
were
joke
buying
about,
up
like,
old
Halloween.
closed down Walmart stores in Texas, of all places, too.
Sure.
So that they could start packing people into them. Yeah.
Eee. Why?
That was a good one. That was one of my favorite ones of this century.
And not at all current whatsoever.
Yeah, I wonder how conspiracy theories are going to change as a just like as a concept, because there's some crazy ones out there like Time Cube. Like that's like some really, really old 2000s style, like new internet type of conspiracy theory, and that just don't have the vibe for the type of thoughts that happen today. You've never heard of Time Cube?
Never heard of Time Cube.
Time Cube is the idea that there are 4 simultaneous days all occurring at the same time, and that the world itself is rotating in different ways, so that each corner of the Earth is having an individual day. Time Cube was revealed to the guy who told us about Time Cube via God, so that's how you know it's real.
Of course. He was probably in a trance too, right, when it happened? A God-induced trance.
I don't know how or why, what am I doing differently that people have time for this kind of stuff, Like between this and like Phil bros who just and the Phil sisses, because as if there's like all these women that are so they have their heads so far up their ass with their own philosophy, and like speedrunners. I don't understand, how do people have time for anything like that? I thought I feel like between being a dad and being a little bit of a content creator and then like just trying to live and pay bills, I ain't got time for any of that stuff. I don't Time Cube. I don't.
Yeah. Stephen,
hold on, I gotta understand. Did you mean speedrunners as in like people who plays video games fast?
Yeah, this person they put in 500 hours into this one game and now they're able to do this level in 38 seconds. Like
you would be aghast if you saw my Steam library. I have played so much Monster Hunter.
Like, I'm not trying to throw stones. I've got like plus 400 hours on my three king. What am I trying to say? Fire Emblem, 3 Kingdoms. But
the only reason why I bring that up is because it's not. Have you ever heard of the I think it's the Sephiroth-Whorf hypothesis about language? Nope. It's what you say influences how you think, and how you think influences what you say.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just the idea of clearly you're going to say the things that you would think to say, and therefore what you say reinforces how you think. And therefore I find it very revealing that we talk about Time Cube and conspiracy theories, and then in the same breath we're like speedrunners. And I'm like, these ideas are related to you.
Yeah, my brain works faster than my mouth sometimes. Or maybe
Stephen, you can take joy in the fact that you're going to start getting your time back when your youngest child turns 14.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because they're going to have things way more important than you.
You're not cool anymore.
Too true. yeah, like I've got my kids downstairs and they're running solo right now. And like with the 12-year-old, like she's fine because she has like, she just reads novels over a weekend
Yeah,
now.
right,
But my
exactly.
8-year-old, I'm just like, oh, my guy, you're just going to be flying solo because she's reading and
And you have
I'm
to
busy.
entertain yourself.
Just like I did for my entire childhood.
Have you gotten to the point where when it is suspiciously quiet, like silence itself is an eerie thing?
Not quite yet. Yeah, no, I haven't experienced too much of that yet.
Hey, you know,
Usually
we
means
have a
they're up to
call.
something. We have a call?
Yeah, should we bring him up,
Love
you
it.
think?
I mean, I guess. Yeah.
All right, this is Daniel from CA, Corny America, he, him.
Excellent.
Hey there.
Yeah, and wants to know, is the exploitation of non-human animals ethical? Hi, Daniel, how are you?
That is correct. Hi. I'm
going
a little
to
bit tired.
assume that you are a vegan?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. What exactly did you say? Of sorts?
I said that is correct. I am vegan.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome.
Is it hard to hear me? Because I'm using my headphones. Just let me know if it is.
Yeah, not really. You're good. So what aspect of the animal exploitation would you like to discuss?
Well, all forms, specifically unnecessary forms that are unnecessary to our survival. I think that we, through like religious lens, sometimes people use their religion as a justification to exploit non-human sentient animals, right? And
Or
they
other
say,
humans even.
or other humans even, exactly. So they say, well, God gave us these animals for this purpose, or that's what they were created for. I hear this all the time when I talk to others about animal ethics, and it's kind of a showstopper because, it's really difficult to get them to reason logically about this topic. And even if we get through a lot of logical reasoning in regards to animal ethics, and they're in agreement with, animals don't want to suffer, they don't want to die, it's wrong to do these things to them because of those reasons, and they have experience, they have sentience, they have the capacity to experience like us, to feel like us, suffer like us, and recognizing that also, like for example, with the consumption of animal products, with the purchase of animal products, it effectively causes animals to suffer a horrible experience in life and have their life cut short. After like maybe going through some of this reasoning with people, they agree with a lot of it, and it seems like we can walk through like the logical the logical entailments, but at the end of the conversation, sometimes they will just say, well, God gave me these animals to eat, so therefore I'm going to keep doing it. So it's kind of like it's like a thought-stopping cliche, right? And unfortunately, this is not limited to religious people. I can talk to secular people about these kinds of things, and a lot of times I hear illogical arguments. So I wanted to discuss this and expand more on just animal ethics.
I'm curious what, because I can see why they'd be very annoying with theists, because I'm not a vegan, so I don't have that conversation with theists. So you get the very fun experience of it's just faith, right? Like you just have to believe. I'm not saying that's what they say, but like that line has the same effect for you, and I will just never experience that form of that argument, which I think is funny. But I am now interested in what non-theists, atheists have said to you that you say, I'm going to put words in your mouth real quick, but I think you would say this, are thought terminating cliches where you go through all the argumentation and then they just stop. So like if you're already discarding the theist version, what's the atheist version that you've dealt with?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the common atheist arguments are they're logical fallacies, effectively, like appeal to nature. Well, it's natural, though. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's good or bad, or that mean that it doesn't also imply that you should do something just because it's natural, right? Like, for example,
cyanide is natural.
Yeah, exactly. Cyanide is natural. Multivitamins are unnatural, or let's just say heating, cooling, medication. These things are like unnatural, but I think we can agree that a lot of these things are very beneficial and good. And yeah, we could point to the opposite in many cases too, right?
It does.
Yeah, exactly. We can point.
Just because something isn't natural doesn't mean it's bad.
What isn't natural?
Yes.
Seriously, what isn't natural?
Plastic.
Yeah, actually, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good point, because technically we could say anything and everything is natural, right?
Well, everything within our experience that we know of is part of nature, right? Everything we know of at this point in time is natural. Everything.
Sure. Maybe we could say something that is void of human intervention is natural.
Why do we draw the line in human intervention? What about other animal intervention? Like, is a beaver dam natural?
I'm just trying to define it to the best of my capacity, and I think that would be probably the best definition. So maybe a beaver dam wouldn't be natural because it's human intervention, right?
Okay. So this is not like a gotcha. It is like, actually, I thought about this. This is literally a question, because do you accept that humans are animals?
Yes, I absolutely do. Yeah.
Great.
And that's actually interesting you brought that up, because that's interesting that you brought that up, because this is another kind of thing people use. This is generally coming from like theists, where they say, well, we're not actually animals, or, we're not animals. And this is why I'm always trying to emphasize non-human animals, because we are also animals, but we always tend to put ourselves in this category seemingly where we're not. And when we say animals, we forget, or maybe some people forget sometimes, that we are also
I'm super
animals.
okay saying I'm an animal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm more important. I can't, like, that's going to be an unsatisfying answer for you, and I'm happy to dive into it, but I'm just going to not bury the lead until you will not be happy with how I answer your question. You will find it unsatisfying, and I find myself and my existence more important than non-human animals. And I don't think so when we come to talk about things like torture, like literal torture, I would absolutely say that is 100% unethical, because that's just misery for misery's sake. But when talking about, for example, eating an animal, as an animal, I am so uncompelled by any ethical argument beyond its unnecessary suffering, and I'm generally unwilling to grant its butchering to be unnecessary, because we are animals eating animals. I'm an animal and I like animals. They taste good. I'm sorry. There it is. I don't find it an unethical
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. So when you're saying, I like it, that's going beyond necessity. That's going into wants. So when we talk about necessity, like necessary, we're talking about needs. Like in this case, I would say necessary for survival would be like a good, reasonable justification, right? But when you say I like it, that implies some sort of I get pleasure from this thing, and I want it for that. Like I have a desire for that pleasure, right? In fact, usually that's why most people consume animal products. That's why I used to consume animal products for most of my life. Sure. It wasn't something that was necessary for me. Maybe there was some level of conditioning that made me believe that it was necessary by these multi-billion-dollar animal agriculture industries. But once I found out that it wasn't necessary, I can obtain all the nutrients that my body needs without animal products, I understood that the only thing remaining there was just pleasure. And I don't think sensory pleasure is a good justification to cause immense suffering to other conscious sentient beings, innocent beings, obviously, right? And then of course to take their lives.
Whoa, I want to take back the unnecessary, because we're loading that in, but I just want to know why you discard pleasure as a viable counter argument. Because I'm with you on unnecessary for torture's sake. We can talk about that as much as we want, but it's just like, what line is unnecessary? Like, to what degree of an ascetic monk do we need to become so that we properly do not harm all animals around us? Do you sweep the sidewalk where you?
Yeah, I don't think. No. I try to be mindful where I'm walking, but there's a couple things, right? So one is when I say humans should not exploit animals, so it's this intentional thing that we're doing, not necessarily. Sometimes people are unaware, right? So most people are unaware. A lot of people are unaware of what's going on and the fact that they don't need to consume animal products. So for people that are aware, I would like to say, this would, I think it's a moral obligation to not cause unnecessary suffering. And when I say the reason I say unnecessary in terms of survival, right? Because I think that's a reasonable justification. Just like if we went to, let's say, for example, we went to court, right? And somebody, for example, broke into my house, and I had to protect myself. It was an attacker, and for example, let's just say the person was about to attack me, and my life was at stake. My life was threatened, and I killed this attacker. Let's just say I shot and killed this attacker before they could harm me. And I would go to court, and the court would ask, what was the reason you killed this person, right? And so I would have to present a reasonable justification. And I think a reasonable justification in the case of, killing other sentient beings would have to be very similar in terms of the weight, right? So in the case of killing animals, I would say they value their lives. Right? They value their lives just like we value our lives. They want to live just like we want to live. Like cats and dogs, pigs, cows, and chickens. They also have an self-interest to live and continue life, have good experiences. And I think it would be wrong.
What animal does not have self-interest?
Well, there are some animals that are not sentient. There are some animals that are not sentient.
Right. So you're going back and forth because I just want to really understand which animals you care about, because you're going back and forth between animals and sentient animals. Which are the ones that are allowed to live?
Yes. Because
let me just give me.
Would it be
an
ethical
opportunity
to
to
eat a clam?
respond.
Yeah, you brought up several points, and I'm responding. To
so
you said.
let me.
I have these questions because
I'm trying to respond, but you guys are not letting me respond. So there are sentient animals and there are non-sentient animals. So sentient animals like humans, cows, pigs, chickens, dogs, cats, giraffes, zebras, monkeys.
Right.
There's non-sentient animals like sponges, sea corals, starfish, jellyfish, like oysters. Okay. These are recognized to be non-sentient animals, which is why I'm being very specific about.
Right. So are you okay with eating non-sentient animals? Which animals are allowed to die?
Yeah, I don't think there's an ethical issue with eating non-sentient animals. I would say.
Okay, so for it's sentience. That's for you. You all animals non-sentient you can eat. That's just what I'm trying to get to right now. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm emphasizing sentient animals. Yes.
How do you measure that?
That's why I'm emphasizing it. Well, I personally don't have the scope because I'm not like a neuroscientist, and so I leave it to the authority in terms of this. And when I look at what I'm talking about is the scientists that study this, neurochemistry, neurobiology. There's a consensus of scientists that have determined that there's some animals that are sentient and some animals that are not. And I kind of explained, some of the cases in which they are, some of the cases which they're not. So I leave it up to the authority in regards to sentience, but there are parameters that they can test. I'm not super familiar with it, just to be completely honest with you.
I don't want to beat you up about not having an exact list of all animals that are sentient or not. I just want to point out. Yeah, right. We are in fact right now. So you brought up fallacies earlier, and I'm not even saying that you're conducting one, but fallacies are only fallacious if they are in fact fallacious. Have you heard of the fallacy?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, so the fallacy. Yes. Yeah. So
where just
are you
because someone
implying I'm
uses a
making
fallacious
something up?
argument doesn't mean that they are in fact wrong, right? So like I want to kind of discard just like, oh, gotcha, like that's not really the goal I'm trying to get here.
Yeah.
Is right now we are in fact engaging in special pleading, and special pleading is some animals are different from other animals, and it's fallaciously special pleading unless we actually do have a criterion upon which it is in fact a special case, which you are saying you leave to the experts. Okay, cool, fine. So there are some animals that you find and believe to be sentient, but not others. I mean, sure.
Yes,
this is
based
really-
on scientific evidence. Correct. Yeah.
Sure. This is a route I'm sure you take a lot, or a lot of people take with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can. Yeah, so when you ask me about like the secular ethical, secular ethics that kind of oppose veganism, I think yes, like I said, a lot of times there are logical fallacies, like nature though, right? Like, well, lions do it, or like this isn't just natural. These kinds of things like don't really tell us about how we should act, and this is a question about ethics, and specifically animal ethics. Like, how should we act towards other sentient animals, right?
Well,
and
then let
and
me ask
I
you
want
to defend.
Well, I want to also like state the other thing. Like another fallacy we hear a lot is, well, we've been doing it for a very long time.
But
right?
I'm not
and
making
I
that
would say just
argument.
because
Yeah, we're
that's
not making that
relevant.
argument. We're not making those arguments.
is-
Talk to us, okay?
Yeah, which was why I'm interrupting you, not to be rude, but to
okay.
stop you from making an argument I'm not making. So now I'm very curious
no.
what you would say in this case, where I forget what they're called, but there is a sect of monks that sweep the sidewalk so they don't step on any bacteria or germs and things like that. In their view, what you just said, which would be the only animals that are deserving of this ethical framework, is sentient animals, and they disagree with you. So now I would like you to tell me what you would tell them, why yours is better and they're wrong.
Yeah. So I think that sentience is a good marker. I think I can't see a better reason to give moral consideration. When we think about what that is, when we're giving moral consideration to someone in terms of thinking about how our actions affect someone, we're thinking about, generally speaking, how do they feel? How do they suffer? Are they going to feel pain? Are they going to feel sad? Are they going to feel happy? These are the things that indicate to me what is like a good action or a bad action, right? And
Sure.
when we're talking about, so this is why if an organism doesn't even have the capacity to have experience, right? And like these non-sentient beings like viruses or bacteria or plants, right? They don't have the capacities. They don't even have the systems to have the capacity of sentience. So the quality of having an experience is the thing that I believe is the most important in my view. And I think it's the most reasonable thing to make a judgment in regards to like our actions, whether something is like good or bad towards them. So I don't know if that,
okay.
hopefully you understood that. Yeah.
So I did, but
Okay.
my immediate being the Jainist, thank you, Stephen. Being the Jainist, my immediate counter argument is: do you accept that there was a time in human understanding that animals did not have these experiences? So much so that I'm going to say this with a giant asterisk, by the way. We didn't get a super chat, but here's your super fact. I'm not actually sure this is correct. I'm pretty sure it is. Somebody fact check me. That Tycho Brahe threw cats out of windows to prove that the screaming that they had was a robotic, soulless mechanism to make us feel for them. So you do, I suspect, accept that humans did believe animals were not sentient or could feel. That was the case before, yes?
There might have been a time, yeah, we didn't have the capacities, yes.
Well, okay, cool. So, and then we got better, right? And some do.
And we
understand
evolved.
that some
Yeah,
animals.
yeah, we evolved,
Well,
yes. To have these
we didn't
capacities,
evolve.
Yes.
We have a better understanding of animal experience.
Our understanding evolved.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, right. We gain more facts.
No,
Could it be the case that we still don't have all the facts, and the level of experience that you're not used to suspecting an animal could have does exist in some animals, and we just don't know it yet?
It definitely could be the case. We have to depend.
Janist.
So we have to depend
That's
on
a ridiculous question.
Let's take this one step further.
Yeah, I mean,
we are doing research into this and finding out that some of this is true as well. How do we know that plants don't have a degree of consciousness that we don't understand, right? But we are learning that plants do have some degree of consciousness, at least some plants do, right? So is it ethical now to kill a plant to eat? Or just to kill this particular plant because I like the way it tastes over the way that plant tastes?
That's a whole lot of maybes.
Yeah, so
Every
I mean, like we could
organism
also
exists to continue to live. All of them.
What foods can we
Yeah,
eat
so-
that don't kill something? I actually know the answer to this, but
Well,
dairy products and honey.
you guys want me
like,
to respond? Or, I don't know if can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yeah. So like we have to kind of key off of our current day scientific evidence, right? We have nothing else to go off of. Sure, in the future we could also discover that God is true, right? But we have to kind of go off of our epistemics that we know of and that are studied, observable, factual, right? So we do know that plants don't have nervous systems. They don't have brains. They don't have the
That
capacity
doesn't mean
to
they don't
these-
have a type of consciousness that we don't understand. And we know
what
that
if-
in a grove of trees, if the trees on one end of the grove start to suffer from a disease, the trees on the other end of the grove start to develop antibiotics for that disease. So somehow these trees are communicating, right? So there's somewhere there's at least a modicum of consciousness there to make that communication happen. Even if
I
we
mean,
never
you might be. I mean,
right?
even if that is consciousness, I don't know if that's quite consciousness. Like I think consciousness derives from the brain, and I think it's like an emergent property.
I
of the
know.
brain.
I said that.
Well,
I said that. What if it's a
so-
type of consciousness that we don't understand? That's what I'm saying. You're still caught up on this brain thing, and I'm trying to go beyond the brain thing. It's like Robb was saying. How do we not know that these other animals aren't consciousness? How do we know a beetle doesn't have consciousness? We don't. How do we know that corn plant doesn't have consciousness? We don't, because they might have a type of consciousness that is not the type that we have. Just like we may find a non-carbon-based life form out in the universe. Right? It could be. It's a completely different thing to what we as humans are experiencing.
But in fairness,
I mean,
we're
I think
saying that consciousness is like what is it? The phrase that the consciousness is a byproduct of a brain. Like then, for what it's worth, like as far as like pedantic definitions are concerned. As we understand it now, we have never seen a consciousness without a brain. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say, well, maybe there's magic consciousnesses out there that don't involve brains. Like no, let's just stay grounded with where we're at. A brain produces a consciousness. Are there things that happen between trees and grass? Maybe there's things. I don't think it's fair to say, well, maybe that's consciousness as well, because as we know it right now, consciousness is tied to a brain.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Like, I know you guys were talking about Dungeons and Dragons and magic and stuff earlier, but I mean, like, this is an atheist show, right? Cool. So, like, yeah, I mean, like, we should stay grounded in what we know and the facts we know of, and we should try to avoid equivocating, because when I'm talking about sentience, this is a very specific concept that we know of, which is, basically the capacity to have subjective experience, right? And we know very specific organisms have this, and we know very, very specific systems generate this thing called sentience. And this is specifically what I'm talking about, is like these beings that have, like, the ability to have subjective experience, feel happy, feel sad, feel suffering, feel joy. These are the beings that deserve moral consideration. Because I don't see, like, this table in front of me, I don't see why I would give this table in front of me a moral consideration.
I'm not gonna
because
eat the
they don't
table
have
at all.
self-interest and they don't have a capacity to experience anything. So like to afford moral consideration to someone would mean that like, hey, I'm acting in with consideration how it affects them, right? In terms of like their experience. And so, like, if they don't even have experience, I don't see why I would like think about it. So, like, that would prevent me from like washing my hands. Like, if I thought about just
Yeah.
like if you're referring to just like killing beings, just like any living being, that I would never wash my hands, never take a shower. This seems just very irrational.
Yeah.
Daniel,
The problem that I have is not. I had one last point. The problem that I had.
I was going to say, just give me 1 second, Rob, because I'm going to go right back to you. Daniel, I just want you to say we've actually gone over time. We got one more call we want to take. I know Rob has a final point he wanted to make, so I'm going to let him make it. And I want to encourage you to call back again next week. So go ahead,
Yes.
Rob.
My point was never that consciousness could exist without a brain. That was not where I was going. My point
That was
is
me.
You have decided that things that you believe can have experiences are the things that are worth ethical dilemma. But
Ethical
like, why not
consideration.
other
Yeah.
ethical consideration? Thank you. But why not necessarily other humans? Like, the issue that I have with it is not, they don't have a brain. They don't have a brain. Therefore, you should still consider them, because what if it is, I live on a finite planet with finite resources, and your original point and my original point was because they taste good, and you go, but that's an issue of want, not need. And I go, yeah. And that's seemingly fine. And I'm not even going to appeal to other animals and say, oh, but they eat, because I'm talking about me as an animal that lives on this planet in this way currently. And why should I sacrifice my moral consideration of a more pleasant experience on this planet for a different animal? And just as an idea, how many, like, this is a little unfair, but it's a fun rhetorical point. How many charities do you donate to? Because should not humans be among the chiefest ethical considerations? Why are vegans concerned about the animal and not other humans chiefly?
Yeah, that is kind of a silly point to bring up.
Yeah, so vegans, well, not necessarily. Like, vegans can also consider other humans. It's not like you have to pick one thing to consider morals, right? Like for example, humans can, like, obviously we can have various injustices that we can be against. Like, we can be against like racism. We can be against like discrimination of women, or just discrimination of like LGBTQ or whatever it is, right? We don't have to single out one specific injustice or discrimination. In the same sense, we don't have to single out like veganism or injustice towards the non-human sentient animals. So yeah, we could also be voices or speak out against other injustices, and we do. There are plenty of vegans that are against various forms of oppression, not just the oppression of other non-human animals, right? So,
and any additional points to my first point, which was I'm also considering my personal experience in this finite world with finite resources and the moral consideration of my own pleasure in it.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by like finite world of finite resources. Of course, we have like a finite resources in this world, but that doesn't mean we don't have access to like other options, right? And in the case when we don't have access to, like, the common hypothetical that's proposed is like, if you were stranded in the middle of a deserted island, sure, maybe in that case, you have a reasonable justification to, for killing someone, right? Because it's a pretty severe act.
Do we have than our resources? That just didn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry. But you said, well, we have finite resources, but we have other options. What other options? Resources are resources. It's a generalized word. If we run out of resources,
I'm asking, what do you mean by that?
No, I was wondering what you meant by that. That's my question, because you were the one that said it. When we run out of resources, we have other options. That's what you said. So I'm
No,
wondering, because
maybe we could-
resources, if we run out of resources,
No.
we're out of resources. I don't know what other options there are.
Respond. Like what I'm trying to say is that yes, we are limited in resources on this planet Earth, right? But that doesn't mean individuals don't have access to various options. So just
What?
saying yes, we're limited by
So-
resources like on planet Earth. That doesn't really imply anything in regards to like your specific context
So
or like your specific
resources are
situation.
way more than just actual physical objects. Just as an actual real example, it's way cheaper and much easier, economical and affordable for me to grab a cheap cheeseburger from like a McDonald's than to eat a salad that is significantly more expensive because I live in a society with finite resources and finite space. Like that's the problem. It's not
Well,
just physical
then you shouldn't-
material. It's
then you
my
shouldn't eat
life
salad.
has been Sorry, say again.
And you shouldn't eat salad. I mean, vegans, I know like there's this popular misconception that vegans just eat salads all day. Well, that's not what vegans eat. So we should eat foods that are like more sustainable and
Right.
like there's a lot of, by the way, in regards to the cost thing, I do want to address that because Oxford University actually did a study.
You know what? You know what? Wait, save it.
It's-
Save it, Daniel. Save it for your call next week. Because as I said, like over 5 minutes ago, we're already over time, and I have one more call we need to get to. So I want to encourage you to call back next week, but we're going to end this call right now because I do need to move on. I'm sorry about that, but it's a necessity.
Please call back.
So yes, please, I
appreciate
encourage you to
Dan.
call back.
I'm
So,
on team
and I
with
want to
you.
thank you very much for calling in. I mean, you made some great points. So, whew, okay. Well, and as I said, we have one more call. I'm going to just jump right into it. This is Marcos, him from New Zealand, wants to talk about a paranormal claim he heard. So I thought I brought him up here, but I guess I didn't click it right on there. There you go. Hi, Marcos. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So what's this paranormal claim you heard?
Well, a little bit of context here. I was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, and just like the Mormons, we also have a prophet that is Ellen White, and I didn't read. I was raised Seventh-day Adventist, but I didn't read about her writings. I didn't even knew much about her. But since the last few months, I've been researching, and I found some quite disturbing stuff in her writings and stuff. I also found that apparently during visions she had, there were eyewitnesses to saying that she didn't breathe for 2 hours during visions, and she was tested by doctors. So
Now, if I'm not mistaken, she lived during the 19th century, did she not?
yes,
1800s?
yes.
Okay. And how confident are you that these stories of her are 100% accurate? Because
Well,
I'm not
say-
saying this is what happened, but just to give an example, how about maybe there were people who were involved with the church who wanted to grow the church, right? And wanted people to pay more attention to the church. So they created these stories to attract more people. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is what happened, but how do we know that something like that didn't happen?
So yeah, like a fraud, like you asked me, I'm sure that happens 70%, 70%.
I want to make sure I heard you right, just really quick. You're saying that the claim was that she went into trances and did not breathe for several hours, right? Is that what I
Yes,
heard? Okay.
yes.
And it sounds like you don't believe that.
Oh,
you
well,
find it
I don't
hard to
know what
believe,
to
to be
believe.
honest?
I don't know what to believe anymore. I have been through quite a painful phase because of her writings, that basically she condemns everything. She condemns everything in her writings and stuff that my family does on occasion. So like I'm condemned, according to her, I am condemned to hell. My family is condemned to hell. So I don't want to believe what she said was true. But then you have this stuff that they say she didn't breathe for 2 hours and she was tested by doctors. Last time I called about the same exact topic, the call was ended because interference. I said to access the Wikipedia page of her.
Yeah. So I guess this is probably just my fault. I guess I don't fully understand the connection where you say, and I totally get it, where you go, I don't want to believe the things that she said, right? About you going to hell and things like that. But I'm not sure how that connects to she didn't breathe for 2 hours. Are you saying because they say it was verified by doctors, this makes it more believable? And therefore you don't know what to believe? Do I have that right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well then, I mean, I think the first thing to acknowledge is I think I do appreciate that you appreciate, presumably, right, appeal to expertise, and we should generally trust what doctors say, which is why I'm in some ways pretty glad that that's a dilemma of, but this is what the doctors say. Okay. I mean, there's always the route of, did the doctors actually say that? Or is this just part of the story? But even if they did, I've never heard of anyone not breathing for 2 hours. Have you ever heard of sun eaters? Do you know what those are?
Sun eaters, like in the movie Project Hail Mary, like those little bacteria.
I haven't seen that yet. So a sun eater, they used to be more popular in like the late 1900s, early 2000s, are people who claim that they get all the sustenance they need from the sun. And they are essentially a plant and photosynthesize and don't need to eat anything. And so therefore they claim, and doctors have verified, that these people would be like locked in a room with only water for like a month or two, and they would just live and eat nothing. Can I ask you if that sounds believable?
Well, if doctors verified, I don't know.
Well, they definitely said the doctors verified.
Yeah, I want to point out something real quick about doctors, okay? First off, we don't, like, some of these doctors may well have just been followers of hers anyway, so they're just bolstering the thing, right? Another thing is we're talking 1850, 1840s to 1860s here, right? I was going to say 1850s generally. So we didn't have as good of medical equipment at the time. So, and I just been doing quick research on this. Many of the doctors made quotes like, "I cannot discern that she is breathing." He didn't say that she was not breathing, only that he could not discern that she was breathing. Dr. Kellogg of, Cornflakes fame actually said that. So,
yeah.
So I'm wondering if, again, do we know that these doctors were giving us truthfully the answer, or what they just thought was the answer? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, it could be possible that they were actually just misquoted over time.
That it was a misquote, or again, the doctor could have been one of her followers, right? And just rubber stamped it through. Of course, it was a miracle. We need more people in the church. It's a miracle. The more people we get coming into the church, the more people we got donating. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to these doctors. I did a little research on my own, and I can't say with 100% certainty that that's true, but apparently one of the doctors that verified her, Dr. Lord, if I'm not mistaken, he was called Charles Lord, and apparently he lived very long, and he was alive when the book with the testimonies was published for the first time. So if he didn't say that, then why couldn't just someone verify that? If they could easily verify what he said or didn't say.
I mean, people have been writing down stuff for a long time. Like the humorism was a method of medicine for a long time. Ultimately, my point is we will never know if she did actually not breathe for 2 hours and whether or not doctors verified it, or at least were there at the time, whether they could have been misquoted, or maybe they had a reason to lie. Maybe they didn't and they didn't know what they were looking at. All of that, like, we'll never know, like, ever. And I think there's a lot of value in acknowledging that we won't know whether or not she did that. But what we can do is back up and go, do we have any examples of anyone else not breathing for 2 hours and then being okay about it? But then let's take one step further, right? Where you say, she's written a lot of things about how people like you are going to go to hell, and that really distresses you because it seems like she's right, because apparently she has divinity because she didn't breathe for 2 hours. My question is, how are those two things related? What if another person didn't breathe for 2 hours and he said you're not going to hell? Which one of them is correct?
Well, then I wouldn't know, but I would be very, I would be very pleased, like, yeah, yeah, like like I said, I come from a Christian background,
Sure.
and they say, so, so if I go to them and say, but Joseph Smith, he also had these witnesses that he saw an angel in I don't know where, and he led to golden plates. And also Beatrice Suborius, she also had a vision of Saint Mary, and when she had a vision, they put a candle under her arm, and for 15 minutes, and she didn't burn at all. It was
People can
just
say
but
things.
You know, interestingly,
Yeah.
you know, you're talking about seeing an angel. Interestingly, I almost wrote the cold open today about the Angel of Ma. It was a battle during World War I where supposedly retreating British soldiers saw angels come to their aid, and it turned the tide of the battle, right? Well, it turned out that it was actually a short story that was written by a journalist in 1914 after the actual Battle of Mons. And he actually, in the story, he made them phantom longbowmen. And just with... because the story spread around, you know, word of mouth, the phantom longbowmen turned into angels, and the whole thing, and it actually went down into history for quite a while as something that actually happened. A lot of people actually believed that these angels showed up on the battlefield and changed the tide of this battle, and it just didn't happen. So when I hear these stories like this, oh, this person saw an angel, I have a lot of difficulty believing that that story actually happened without some kind of outside verification. And almost always there isn't. It's always this person was alone. Paul was alone when he saw Jesus on the road to Damascus, right? They're always alone when these things happen. So I have a real problem just believing these things because I know people want to be somebody, most often through their experiences. So I can make up this crazy experience, get people to believe me, and I could be somebody. I could be a saint. I could be a saint.
Yeah.
In medieval times, being a saint is freaking awesome, right? I just got to have a good story that happened to me when I was alone.
So that's Kelley's deal, right? Which is very good and a decent point, which is just like, this is unverifiable, and what do we do with it even if we could verify it, which we never can. And my point is, I'm just going to give it to you. Great. She didn't breathe for 2 hours. So what? This means that she knows what God wants? That you're going to hell is more correct? These ideas are not related. You have to then prove the connection between them. So, like, even if Kelley's right, my next question is, so what?
Maybe. Come on. Let's say, I don't know, it was fairies. It wasn't God. It was fairies that make her not breathe for 2 hours. But I always have this thing on my mind that is, I went through some pretty tough phase because I am now afraid of hell, and now I'm afraid of she didn't believe in hell. She believes in annihilationism. Like instead of going to hell, God's gonna give you a very painful, very slow death. That's much better. Yeah.
We're all getting that. We're all getting a very slow death. All of us.
I like your optimism, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna burn for several days before getting destroyed. That's her thing, And it's gonna be
I have
way
to question
painful.
whether Ellen White was actually in touch with God too. I mean, she was part of the Great Disappointment in 1844, right?
If it helps, or sorry, please finish. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all. I just wanted to make that point. She did think the world was ending at the time. She actually signed on to the Great Disappointment in 1844. The world didn't end. I think in 1856, she said that the people who were alive at that time would live to see the end of the world. So her prophecies, at least about the end of the world, didn't come true.
For what?
Yeah.
This should.
Yeah.
I hope this helps a little bit, which is the thing to hear is what you just said, right? Like beyond all of that, you find yourself afraid of hell. This is extremely common, and religious trauma is real. And I would go so far as to say that I'd be a little bit surprised if you weren't, because you've been taught your entire life that this thing is not only real, but like is going to happen to you. And so consider this, your brain, literally the formation of your brain has neural pathways to think a certain way, and you've been taught your life to think a certain way. You have, I don't know how old you are, you don't sound young, so that what that means is you have all of this time of thinking a certain way. Cut yourself some slack, because this is potentially a new way of thinking. You've had all that other previous time. You shouldn't feel this way, but it is very understandable and forgivable that you do. Now the hard part is to go, but should I? And probably not, but it's really hard. As you may have heard from the earlier part of the show, I've never been religious. This is not something I've ever had to deal with, but people who have been religious have religious trauma, specifically hell-based fear for like sometimes the rest of their life. So just be aware that this is very common and not unique. This is a thing that happens.
Yeah, I get it. But it's just that if she does not breathe for 2 hours, that's not normal. That's something crazy right there. Right there.
We don't know.
You don't know she did.
She did. It was reported by people that she did, but we don't know that she did.
Yeah.
And one of the doctors that reported it was a known quack, right? I mean.
Yeah, Kellogg. He wasn't the same guy who invented this. Like I said, I did some research on this. Wasn't the same guy who invented the cereal. It was actually his half brother. And he later said she suffered from catalepsy. But then you have his earlier testimony contradicting his post-testimony, and which one you believe. But I guess the really difficult part of all of this is just that my church, I'm still a member of the church. They say what she said was true, and they don't see the terrifying conclusions of it. She said a bunch of stuff is wrong that the majority of the church practices. She said that drinking coffee was wrong, eating meat was wrong, watching fiction was wrong, reading fiction was wrong, and all of these things are going to lead you to hell.
Right, and every other religion you're not. Every other religion you're not part of also says you're going to hell, but you don't believe them.
Yeah, but like, did they have people not breathing for 2 hours? And I mean,
but
yes,
we got people.
There are claims of miracles in all religions. All of the other religions you don't believe, who equally say you're going to hell, but you don't believe. They also all have miracles.
I just want to point out that Kellogg was a Seventh-day Adventist too. I mean, he was part of the church.
Yeah,
That's
all these people who gave their testimonies were part of this church, but
Yeah, that
yeah,
doesn't that seem a bit suspicious that there was nobody from outside the church that could show that she wasn't breathing? They were all people from inside the church. Isn't that
I
a little
mean,
suspicious?
that's the point I was like to get
Yeah.
at. If
And I
she,
want to point out that your
uh,
fear of hell is very common from people who are deconstructing. It's very, very
yeah,
common. And as Rob pointed out, it's not you shouldn't feel
I,
bad
I'm
about it. It's something that you probably should be experiencing, really, because you've been so
yeah.
indoctrinated into it. But are you afraid of the hell of any other religion?
No, I now in a phase that I believe in God, but I hate Him. I hate Him without my heart because
I'm sorry.
I'm now in a phase. My phase now is that I believe in God, but I hate Him. I hate God, honestly. Because He's gonna destroy me. He's gonna destroy my family. He's going to send them to hell because I don't know, they watched SpongeBob and the Incredible World of Gumball. Like, come on, this is absurd. Like,
Chill.
come on,
I didn't expect you to reference that. I have a quick question. You
this
believe
is
in God,
absurd.
you hate him, and he's going to send you to hell. Who told you that? Did God tell you that?
No, but
Okay.
the woman who didn't breathe for 2 hours apparently says that.
Yeah, but she also said
Dude,
the world was going to
I
end.
got you. I once did not breathe for 3 hours. Also verifiable. We can ask my wife. And you are not going to hell. You're good, man. We're straight.
Thank you. It's just the point I want to make is if the doctors were at least one of the doctors. Apparently, I can't confirm with 100% certainty, but I did a little research on this when I still had the energy to do that, and
Sure.
he was still alive when the book was first published. So if he was a fraud, if he never said that, if the doctor never said that, so why couldn't they simply go to him when he was still alive and said, wait, hey, did you really say that? Did your God breathe for 2 hours?
Yeah, that's a
But
great
nobody.
question. I love that you have that question. That's good job.
And my point being that if he is a devout Seventh-day Adventist, that he would say, yeah, I did believe that. And I just mentioned on something else recently that there was a common saying, I might have been here last week or something, in the 19th century among Protestant Christians here in the United States, that they had so much faith that they would believe that Jonah swallowed the whale. Not that the whale swallowed Jonah, but that Jonah swallowed the whale. That's how much their faith was, right? So when you take a Seventh-day Adventist doctor who has so much faith that she didn't breathe, of course he was going to say that she didn't breathe.
Yeah, but I don't know if that doctor was Seventh-day Adventist. They didn't say in the book if he was Seventh-day Adventist.
Ultimately, where I land with what you've got is what I very initially said, which is I am pleased that you want to appeal to expertise and that you do want to, like the guy before us relies on experts because we can't all be experts on everything. Like that's genuinely a good thing to do. And yet when anyone says anything, we should be able to verify it. And I mean, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I don't think you need to be a doctor to hear someone didn't breathe for 2 hours and go, that seems unlikely. And like, that's it. That's as far as you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to go, that's weird. And then not trust people who verify that. And then again, as I said before, even if that was true, so what? You're not, there's other religions that have hells you're not afraid of. This one says that you will go to hell, but even if that was true, how does this connect to that? I'm just going to keep coming back to the same point because the two thoughts are unrelated.
I have an answer to that. Like, I was raised a Christian. Seventh-day Adventism is a fundamentalist Christian religion, and they say the Bible. So Joseph Smith might have seen an angel of light lead to him to the golden plates, but since his doctrine contradicted the Bible, then it was a demon. It was a demon. And Beatrice Suburius did have a candle under her arm for 15 minutes and didn't burn, like she was Daniel's friend. But since Catholicism is an evil religion from evil priests and Antichrist popes, it doesn't matter. It was a demon that they made her do that. But Ellen White was 100% consistent with the Bible. Trust me.
You would think that if demons were real, they would attack atheists because we don't have a religious thing protecting us. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're
they
easy
don't need
targets,
to-
man.
We'd
I don't
be
even have
easy
words for
targets.
us.
You know?
Yeah, they don't need to attack you because apparently you are going. Apparently, according to my religion, you are going to hell anyway. So why bother?
I mean, because we do things like put up call shows where you call in and clearly trying to tempt you away. This is not real. That's not actually happening. I don't want to trigger any religious trauma. You're okay.
You could bother to
Yeah.
gain more souls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's always a reason to do something, right?
yeah.
You know, Marcos, I've really been enjoying this conversation, but we're like 40 minutes over. Yeah, 40 minutes over the end of the show. I am glad you called back this week because I was around last week when you called in and had the connection problems. So I am so glad you called back, and I want you to call back again. So I would love to have this conversation with you again. I'm sure our other hosts here would love to have this conversation as well. So as much as I want to keep it going, I'm going to have to cut you off and end the show. So, but I want to thank you again so much, Marcus, for calling in. Okay.
Yeah, you've been awesome.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. You guys have been awesome too.
Yeah, you were an awesome.
Yeah.
You were an awesome caller to have on. I really appreciate it. And you have a wonderful evening or day. You're in New Zealand, so have a wonderful day. All righty. That was a great show. We had a little slow start there, and I was going to say, hey, let's bring Stephen back up, and the crew was on it. They were just on it. They're awesome.
Yeah, I think we're 3 for 3. I think tonight was actually really great.
Yeah, we did well. So what did you think, Stephen? Your favorite call? Any thoughts on the callers?
I really appreciated Daniel. Like I'm an aspiring vegan. I fall short of the standard that I set for myself, and it's just. This is the best that I can do right now, but I want better for myself, and so that's my cross to bear. But yeah, I think I'm glad that racism isn't as in vogue as it has been, and maybe one day speciesism won't be as prolific as it is now. I don't know, but yeah, I appreciated hearing his perspective. And the first caller, just that vulnerability that he. Just really appreciate hearing the fact that he's gone through that journey and this is where it's brought him to, and that's that kind of self-reflection. That's what we all need. So yeah, those are my 2 favorite calls for sure.
Forgive me, I do forget the last caller's name, but Marcos, I worry and feel for him because he said that he believes in God but hates him. And it is a very common refrain that people will say, oh, you're just an atheist because you hate God. And like, 1, that's really annoying to hear because maybe I have good reasons. And 2, that presupposes I don't have a good reason to hate God. Like
Adjust.
There's potentially some very good reasons to be very upset about your lot in life if you believe that your lot in life came about the way that God said he did.
It also presupposes that you believe in the thing you hate, so you can't really be an atheist and hate God. So
they know it's written on your heart clearly.
Yeah.
Is that
Stephen,
a common aspect?
Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
Is that a common aspect of deconversion?
Ask your specific question.
Is
hating
well,
God?
I suspect, hating God.
Okay.
believing but hating God, is that a common part of deconversion?
Like, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody, believe it or not. But for myself, did I hate God at any point? Frustrated, sure. But like for me, no, I didn't really have that luxury because I believe that God is this. And as my thoughts my thoughts shaped and developed this way, it's just like, wait, that doesn't match. So
Right.
I can't be mad at that God because no,
Yeah.
this just doesn't make sense. But I hate him? Nah.
Can you remind us what the prompt is for next week?
Yes, absolutely. We want to know if you were a ghost, who would you want to haunt in the afterlife? And what's the
Awesome.
best place? Should that go in the comments of the video or wherever you're seeing this? That's the good place to put that?
Yep, so in the comments below.
Or
And we will pick the top 3 next week and read them off on the show.
better for worse?
So the one thing that Dan started years ago, and I still try to keep up, is words of wisdom. Rob, you have any words of wisdom to close the show with?
Oh man. Forgiveness is not just forgiving someone else, it's also giving yourself the grace to be able to move on. And you should not forget, because that means that it never mattered.
Nice.
Cool.
Hit me
thank
up
you.
just straight out of nowhere with that?
Yeah, that's the
Whatever.
best way to do it.
That's
the
live
best way to
knowledge
do it.
there, baby.
And so don't forget to put your comments in for We Want the Truth. And remember, folks, always, always keep wanting the truth.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.